Hello, Chief here. I forgot to mention last week I found my cap. 2 weeks ago I said I was wearing this one, and I said I couldn't find this one. Well, what was odd, it was within a hand's reach of where I reached for a couple other hats. Basically, I just went in my closet, went along the top shelf, and found it lined to the rest of the hats that I pulled out, scrambling looking for this hat when I made my video 2 weeks ago. So I forgot to mention that. And not related to my military career, but I recently, well, not recently, but February of this year, I was at HEB, which is the grocery store chain here in San Antonio, and I was standing in line to take care of my car license, because we can do that at our grocery store. And this guy was about 6'6". He comes walking towards the tail end of the line. This is before the virus or the pandemic. And he's got a BDU pattern cap on. And he's got Air Force rank. So he comes in behind me. I look up at him. And I said, "Excuse me, but you have the wrong cap on." And he looked at me and he goes, "What?" I said, "You have a Army pattern cap on, but you have Air Force rank." Snickers, leave the dog alone. My pet dog and cat are behind the camera and they're now trying to fight, so that's what you're hearing. Like I said, I'm not going to start over. I'm not going to edit these videos. You get what you get. Me and my pets. Snickers, please. So he looked at me again and he goes, "Well, I got this at Clothing Sales." And I looked at it and it had a couple grommets. Shiny grommets on the side. Well, can't have grommets on the side because a true U.S. Army BDU cap has ear flaps. So where the grommets would be would serve no purposes as far as cooling your head. Fight, fight, fight. So I let it go. I didn't press the issue. I just knew he was wrong. And then he piped in. He goes, "Oh yeah, the guy that told me to buy this hat," he called it a hat, had one more stripe than me. I'm like, "Well, you already got E8 on. I came home and you may add one more stripe if you're like the command sergeant major of the Air Force, but that's the only way you're going to add an extra stripe." So he was an idiot. He didn't know what he was doing. Also, last week I mentioned I got promoted to specialist. The very month that I joined the Army, which is October '85, as we know from previous videos, that was the month that Specialist 5 and Specialist 6 died. They died in September 30th, 1985. So I got promoted to Specialist 4. They still kept the Specialist 4 title. So I was a Specialist 4 when I got promoted, and years later when I was a warrant officer, I showed some soldiers some of my paperwork from my enlisted days, and they're like, "Specialist 4? I go, "Yep, that's what I was. I got promoted to Specialist 4. And I remained a Specialist 4 throughout my carrying that rank for the next few years. Front-leaning rests. I got notes. They're not much. We had black hats at my first AIT. Drill sergeants would come in later that year when I would go down to Texas for my second AIT. So basically a black hat was same purpose as a drill sergeant. He was in charge of the platoon. What they did is they took the fiberglass shell out of the steel pot, painted it gloss black, and threw their rank on it, and that's how they distinguished themselves, rather than, you know, the first sergeant, he's got that lovely campaign hat, as I call it, or the brown round, as some call it. So that's how they stood out. Well, my black hat platoon leader was leading PT, so we were doing push-ups, and then we ended in the front-leaning rest, is where your arms are out straight and you're up in the air, or your back straight. We held it, and then he said something funny. He goes, "All right, those that can see the palm of your hands, stand up." And he stood up along with about a third of the company. And he looked around, he goes, why aren't the rest of you standing up? Well, 2 or 3 of us in unison kind of spilled out that, I can't remember his name, but Sergeant so-and-so, you said those that can see the palm of your hands can stand up. Our palms are facing the ground. He did a acknowledgement. He did a look to the side, because I'm sitting there looking up at him. And he goes, okay, so rest you guys, get down, get in the front lane and rest. And then he ended the PT session, and then occasionally I'd go to his office just to talk to him, because like I said, I was the the assistant sergeant, or so I would talk to him and I teased him about that. Talking to him at one time, like I said, I had the only platoon that had half females and half males, and we had the partitions in the middle of the hallway where the males couldn't see the females going to and from the bathroom. They're supposed to be fully clothed, but of course, I got all those complaints. The boys are looking at us. They're sitting there looking through the partition, and I'm like, they're sitting in the middle of the partition? No, they're sitting on their side. Well, they're this way. So, well, I can't do I'll have to draw a picture, but you'd have to have a super long neck to sit on our side and then look down the middle and be able to look down there. So I took it to the sergeant. So I came in. He goes, Sergeant, I got a good complaint from the female soldier. Wait a second. We don't have female soldiers. We only have soldiers. Okay, Sergeant, I got complaint from the girls. And we don't have girls. We only have soldiers. Sergeant, I got a complaint from the women. Nope. We don't have women. We only have soldiers. Sergeant, the soldiers that have biological bumps on their chests, he burst out laughing. He says, okay, I know what the complaint is. I hear it all the time. I'll go talk to the boys. And I'm like, well, you just got through telling me there are no girls in we only have soldiers, but we have boys. Never mind. That was him. Oops, excuse me, dropped my notes. I'm going to talk next week about an exercise. Our company commander, towards the end of his tenure of being an AIT company commander, wanted to go out and play Army in the field, so he did. But to get to that, we're going to talk about one person. I'm going to call him out by name. His name is, I think he was a Specialist Moon. Moon was his last name. Now, this is before computers. This is before cell phones. This guy had 2 alarm clocks. He had a room to himself. I don't know why. I guess nobody would really wanted the room with him. We had enough space so some soldiers could have rooms by themselves. But we would hear his alarm clocks through the door. We're talking a pretty good thick door. So in the morning, getting ready to go do PT, guys are going back and forth to the bathroom to take care of their morning business. They're bam, bam, bam. Moon, are you awake? I mean, they're literally screaming this. I mean, even the girls sometimes complain, well, the other soldiers complain that we're making too much noise on our end of the hallway. But Moon was a sound sleeper. He's a deep sleeper. And then after 5 to 10 minutes of this some mornings, he'd be like, I'm awake. Well, it's PT time. Well, speaking of Moon and talking about this exercise, Moon was still in the company at that time when we went out to the field and we dug foxholes. We created a perimeter around this camping area on Fort Devens, and we got aggressed because the first platoon of my company was the OPFOR, the Opposition Forces Platoon. They always played the bad guys, whoever needed bad guys for an exercise or a weekend fun. So we got aggressed in the middle of the night. They set off an artillery simulator about 10 to 15 feet from Moon's foxhole. He did not hear it. He was dead asleep. Now, I'm not saying that this action took place all that long of a time, but still, it was like 5 to 10 minutes We wore the Miles equipment. We had blanks. We, you know, bang, bang, bang. We had M60s. The staccato of those is noisy enough. Moon slept through this whole engagement. And what was really hilarious is that after the Op 4 retreated and felt that they had aggressed us enough for the evening or the night, left, Moon woke up. And everybody just laughed at him because we had a good laugh, because the company commander pulled us in together. He wanted to do like a lessons learned, you know, what happened, did anybody get, you know, he had to use his special key to make sure that dead systems were live again. And like I said, I'm going to talk more about the exercise. The exercise was rather fun. It was, like I said, a whole weekend. We were out there 2 nights. We did a patrol one night and got aggressed the same night, and then we got aggressed again the second night, and we did just normal maneuvers during the daylight hours. So I'll talk more about that because it's really well involved. So that's basically all I got today. Still working on my intro. This is still kid friendly. It's compliant in regards to free speech of the Constitution. And still working on my ending, but like I said, freedom's not free. Thank a vet. Chief out.